The topic of UFOs, or unidentified aerial phenomena as they're now being called, has been steadily widening. What was once a taboo subject is now mainstream news and unabashedly so. The New York Times, Tucker Carlson, and The New Yorker have acknowledged that the government recognizes there is something real to this phenomena. It seems the full revolutionary impact this will have in our paradigm and culture is still to be seen, but I have decided to read into the matter to answer the question, if this phenomenon is occurring, then why? I begin with Walking Among Us by the retired Temple University professor Dr. David Jacobs, which, to put it bluntly, it's Dr. Jacobs' contention that these are not our cosmic brothers, but aliens bent on planetary acquisition. His scholarly credentials, along with him having worked with hundreds of abduction cases, makes his thesis difficult to simply dismiss without consideration. The foundation for his premise is based on the multiple attestations of these very same abductees that Jacobs has worked with, some for decades. Much of this information is obtained from hypnotherapy, although not all of it is. Some abductees have developed an ability to consciously recall the experiences that befall them. Nonetheless, Jacobs is an experienced hypnotherapist and is well aware of the limitations and pitfalls of this technique. He goes into detail in his book on what his methods are, so I won't go into them here, but I will say that by all accounts he seems a very responsible and rigorous actor in his methodology. So what's going on? According to Jacobs, the data shows the UFO phenomena is part of a hybridization program. Yes, that's right. The aliens are creating hybrids to populate the Earth and replace us human beings. So let's break this down. Most of us are aware through popular culture what an alien abduction is like. People are taken against their will, usually at night, and are taken aboard a UFO for experimentation. What most people are not aware of, that in addition to experimentation, abductees are forced to perform tasks that include training human-looking hybrids on how to act human. In other words, abductees are used against their will to help integrate hybrids into human society. Jacobs has identified at least 5 stages of human hybridization, from early stages that look more alien to the hubrid, to use another one of Jacobs' terms, to denote a hybrid completely indistinguishable from us and selected for integration into human society. The well-known gray aliens, on the other hand, appear to be just one among several alien types that are organized in a hierarchical system. Above the short grays are tall grays, and above the tall grays are praying mantis type aliens that Jacobs has dubbed insectolins. The insectolins appear to possess not only full control of the entire operation, but also the greatest telepathic powers. Jacobs refers to what he calls neural engagement, where abductees are rendered passive and under complete control by these alien beings. Insectolins possess the greatest amount of neural engagement, but it also seems to be seen among human hybrids who can communicate telepathically with abductees. The tasks abductees must perform include explaining to young hybrid children the daily activities of human life on Earth. It can include proper etiquette for eating out in public, to using a pen to write, to playing and singing. Older hybrids are taught how to dress themselves, what to wear, and how to communicate so as not to stand out. These tasks are performed in UFOs in mock settings to assist hybrid training. Eventually, these hybrids are integrated into human society. There's a complex network of hybrids involved in this process. Hybrids, who again are completely indistinguishable from us, with the exception that they have telepathic powers and are fully dedicated to the alien program, are the hybrids selected for integration. They often live in groups of 2 to 3s, and then there are security hybrids who often live alone in apartments near integrating hybrids and are meant to provide protection. Personal project hybrids, which in the early stages were overseers of abductions and even disturbingly sexual partners for abductees, now manage and oversee hybrid integration and ensure abductees are acting in line to assist this integration. The role of the abductee is to be a passive participant in this program by training hybrids how to fit in. Anything from what type of furnishings are required in an apartment to where furniture should be placed and how many TVs an apartment should have It is all part of the training. Jacobs outlines how some abductees can spend years, if not decades, assisting Hubrids. On any particular day, an abductee can suddenly be bound by a spell of sorts, where they know they have to leave their family to assist the Hubrid for a particular task, and the spell apparently extends to their family members because they do not mind they'll be missing for several hours. The most terrifying aspect to Jacob's research is that the integration has already happened. He notes abductee accounts of seeing their Hubrid trainees fully integrated into society, some working as businessmen, others in finance, others in human resources, the full gamut. Jacobs estimates they can already have established themselves in mass, and their population is only increasing. Abductees have reported that Hubrids are designed not to be attracted to each other, that they are attracted only to their human counterparts. Jacobs speculates that conceivably, the children of a Hubrid-human union will be Hubrids themselves and therefore aid in the replacement. If that wasn't chilling enough, in the early 2000s, Jacobs began to get reports of a great change, or sometimes called a great transformation by abductees. What this exactly is not revealed, but abductees reported being advised that the fruits of the program are nearing their end, that soon we, that is us and the aliens and the hybrids, will all be together, them and us. Some abductees have even been given special training in telepathy to control other humans, and in particular, to control crowds. A particular abductee was advised where they are to stand in a city crossing to calm fleeing crowds from some unspecified cause. So although abductees are never told why they are part of this hybridization program, Jacobs concludes that the secrecy can only point to something nefarious. Our knowledge of the program might potentially threaten it, and so it must remain clandestine. The experiences of abductees are wiped clean from their memories, and so it's only a small sampling of people who have broken through the screen memories and been able to realize their experiences that tie them to this phenomenon. So this was a brief overview of Jacob's thesis, and now some questions I have about the material. First, in the field of ufology, there is a debate over the nature of this phenomena. Are these extraterrestrials, that is, aliens from a civilization on another planet, or are we dealing with interdimensional beings? Perhaps a conscious or even spiritual component is involved with this, or perhaps all of the elements above. It's clear that Jacob's position is a hard nuts and bolts extraterrestrial viewpoint, and I suspect that this may be why he's unknowingly projecting human behavior onto this phenomenon. It's certainly true that in human history we have been exploitive of others. A ship from Europe would land on a foreign shore, claim the land as theirs, and subvert the human population. But can we project this onto an alien species? What might be the motive is entirely foreign to us and perhaps even incomprehensible. 2. The sources for this information are in dozens of abductees Jacobs has worked with, but is this a sufficient sample size to create an accurate picture of this entire phenomenon? Jacobs makes his opinion clear that these beings are not here to help us or heal the earth, but how can he be sure? There are famous abductees like Chris Bledsoe that have reportedly been cured of ailments, which can only point to there being much more to what is going on. The big question I have is, why is there a constraint? Why can't these aliens simply take over? Why do they need to act clandestinely, or to put it simply, why do they act in a way that shows they need us and are afraid of our potential when knowing what's going on? There appears to be some sort of barrier or some sort of counterforce that prevents full expression of this particular phenomena, despite these beings possessing technological abilities that far exceed anything humans have. Jacobs records accounts of recalcitrant abductees who refuse to comply, constantly create obstacles for their alien abductors, and they are routinely threatened, sometimes even with death, and yet there is no reported serious injury or fatality. Why is that? There is something to this constraint factor, either more complexity to the storyline, or perhaps this phenomena is entirely within the conscious domain. Number 4. Now some critical questions for the accounts themselves. What is not explained by Jacobs, although I'm sure he has an answer, is that the stages of development for hybridization is not linear. So, for example, he records an account of a hybrid in 1986 who is basically completely integrated into human life, and yet another hybrid in 2000s who has had to ask what a restaurant is. If this is all the same program, how is such divergence possible? You would expect hybrids in the 2000s to know everything that was understood in the late 80s. And following this, there's a communication dilemma here. According to Jacobs, the communication between hybrids and abductees is telepathic. The abductee can hear in their mind a question such as, "What is a restaurant?" which raises certain philosophical problems. Language is embedded within a web of innumerable concepts. To ask the question, "What is a restaurant?" would require understanding most of human language, vocabulary, and grammar. So much that so much so that it boggles the mind how despite possessing so much knowledge, they would not know what a restaurant is. It's not clear to me how interspecies telepathy can even work unless perhaps we factor in the last point, number 5. There is a somewhat overlooked aspect in Jacob's work. He reports how some abductees have been targeted for special training that involves telepathy, and that these abductees sometimes feel more akin to the aliens than humans. Jacobs believes humans are analyzed for their compatibility with aliens, and based on this, some may be given similar training to what hybrids get. What this implies, though, is that there must be some sort of connecting principle between us and them. In other words, for the hybridization program to work, for neural engagement to be possible, for telepathic communication to occur, we all must have a common ancestor that unifies us and makes these subphenomena possible. What makes us and what makes them must have evolved from the same source for us to be compatible. As incredible as that speculation sounds, it may offer a different understanding to what is happening. So Jacob's work is thought-provoking, though controversial for obvious reasons. I personally suspect he is projecting too much of the human dark side on this particular aspect of the phenomena. It's easy to assume that aliens would behave like we have when encountering a much weaker counterpart, but the truth is they haven't. Despite technology that is thousands, if not millions of years more advanced, they have not come here to sweep us away like in the movie Independence Day. The only thing we can be sure is that if real, they are far beyond our comprehension. They may have evolved around a more cooperative than competitive strategy, and this entire program is really an extension of that cooperation despite our inability to understand it. On the other side, if Jacobs is right, then he is also right there is nothing else we can do about it. Homo sapien will be replaced by Homo alienus.